Hi, everyone. Do some level checks here, make sure everything is good. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. Thank you for joining me. I just wanted to, fairly short stream tonight. Just wanted to make a little bit of music, and I was working on some things earlier, and I thought I would stream while I was doing it. And setting up for these streams always takes a little bit longer than I think it's going to. I don't know if any of you guys, as I was doing this, I was thinking about giving out a couple of streaming tips. And I guess one thing would be if you have if you're doing audio production where you have a bunch of sources running into the stream, that's what takes some time to get set up. But I have other mics open over there, so I know you can hear me a little bit. You hear me clear my throat. But if you're streaming on a regular basis and you have stuff set up all the time, and everything's just kind of like ready to go and set up in levels and all that, it makes things a lot faster. Since I stream every now and then, trying to stream a little bit more lately, but also since I don't stream as frequently, I have to kind of reset things up sometimes because this is actually a working studio. This is a working studio here, so as projects are going forward and as things are happening, inevitably, things get changed, levels get changed, But you can save templates, and I think that's probably what I'm going to do in the future for anybody. Again, it's just little things I'm thinking of. Is every time you do a stream, you get a little bit better, and you realize, oh, I could do this, I could do that. Saving like a streaming template, which I do have some in Logic. OBS is pretty good about saving your previous states. You can set up like scenes and things like that, which are nice. And one other thing I was going to say, but two more things I was going to say, that when I first started experimenting with streaming, one thing, I guess two things. First, I think once I got OBS up and running, I would record. I still do this for level checks. I would record in OBS if you're using some of the software. It's similar. So I'd do a recording with whatever you're going to be using. If it's a synth and drums and guitar, or you're going to be talking whatever, and then listen back to it. You just watch it back. That's the quick and easy way to kind of check your levels. If you have a lot of like things happening like I do over here, sometimes what you're hearing in your headphones may or may not be exactly accurate depending on your setup. So yeah, and the meters in OBS are pretty good. I'm looking at them right now, and it actually looks a little bit low, but it sounds really loud in my headphones. So hopefully it's not too low. And then the other thing I was going to tell you was, let's see, there's one more thing. Oh, you can, as far as YouTube goes, you can practice a stream and just make it private. So you can it's kind of the same as recording it. You're just doing it to YouTube to test your stream settings. So you can do like a whole, test stream where you're doing everything you would normally do, make it private, and then watch it back and see how that goes. So anyway, just some thoughts as I was doing some things tonight for any of you out there that might be interested in streaming. Just to hopefully that'll be helpful. Let's see. So I was working on I had an idea for some 80s style music, and I was going through some synths, and I started looking. I had an idea for like an arpeggiated sound. And I was looking at the ARP 2600, and I really like this synth. I use it a fair amount on projects. This is the Arturia version, and there's some really just all around good sounds in there. I can see why it was such a popular analog synthesizer in its day, and why it's so expensive now if you try to get the actual analog version. It sounds really cool. I always struggle with synchronizing. Well, not always, but sometimes struggle with synchronizing the arpeggiator with the DAW project, I think it probably is not. It's not so much a synchronization issue as it is because on this version, basically on version 3, which is what I believe this is version 3, you can just check MIDI sync, and that's supposed to do it. But like I had a sound I was working with earlier, and it was, man, it was in. I think maybe I'll show it to you, but it was basically. Actually, you know what? I think I have it right here. Let me see what this is. Oh, okay. That's a different. Yeah, no, it's a different. It's a different sound. That's the sound I'm actually going to use. Let's see. Did I make any changes to this? I don't want to change the sound actually, because I'll come back to that. If I have time at the end, I'll show it to you. But basically, it was, I think probably the sequencing pattern was in a different time signature, or the way it was changing. And I couldn't quite get my head around it, because it was as if this was 7 and the metronome was clicking away in 4, maybe. It just was like, couldn't get it in sync to the point that where it would make sense to play like drums with the click or something like that. So anyway, sometimes I struggle with the synchronization, and it was doing what it was supposed to. It was synchronized, but I was having a hard time getting my head around what the ARP was playing. And so to test that, I just switched to another sound. Switch to a different sound, and I realized, okay, so this sound sounds like it's supposed to, you know. So let's see. Yeah, this is a pretty cool sound here. So I pre-programmed a couple of things. So that's the basic underlying. This sound is called Ant Farm, and this is in A minor, I think. Probably, is that right? Probably A minor-ish. Yeah. Yeah, I just thought I would do something. I guess I'm going to add some. I'm going to add drums or guitar first. Thinking here. Let me think about it. I'll let it play and think about it for a second. I don't like the way that's not cued. There we go. Okay, I think I'm gonna try guitar first while I'm sitting here. I have 2 drum ideas in my head, and I don't know which one is gonna work, or which one I'm gonna like better. So, yeah. Okay, we're gonna keep that. I'm gonna try. I think I'm gonna work in the loop. Work in the live loops here instead of doing in the like the regions or sequence window over here. I think I'm going to see if I can work all in here. We will see. All right, so here's the sound I've got. kind of a classic 80s kind of thing with a little extra reverb. Everything, you know, everything has extra reverb. This is Guitar Rig. It's an older version I'm looking at here. It's not on screen, right? It's on a different computer. You can probably, can you see it here? It doesn't matter. Yeah, that camera, the drum cam over there, you'll kind of be able to see it in the background, but it's not going to be on screen. But Guitar Rig is pretty solid. I've used it. I've been using it for many years. And I'm on an older version here because it works with the control pedal board. This is 5. I have 5 and 6 on this computer. 5's the last version that works with the control. So anyway, but it sounds pretty good. This is, I can't remember what this started as. It's like, it's supposed to be like an ambient octave thing. And I dropped the reverb down some. Believe it or not, that's like way shorter than it was. And also it was kind of barky in the low mids, so I took like 400K down, a lot. I think like this interface is a little hard to see. Yeah, I took it down by 11 dB. So a big dip at 400K just because it was just, yeah, the mid-range was a bit much, the low mids were a bit much. But yeah, this sound has, just to talk about audio stuff for a second. Let's see, there was a lot of stuff on here. There's a compressor. There's a thing called reso chords, which gives it the kind of the dense extra. It's kind of chorusy, chordy kind of thing. It's very low in the mix, so that's like just a very light layer. There's a I'm a big fan, by the way, of Guitar Rig for guitar sounds. If you, as you can see, I'm running it on a different machine, which I've kind of always done, just because that way so it's coming out like an amp, analog. There's no synchronization, but it's fine as a plug-in if you have like a super computer. But when you're streaming, as an example, this is a good example. I guess when you're, where's that squeak? Looking for the squeak. Oh, is that my? No, is this cable? When you're streaming and running Logic, and running synths, etc., you know, I try to farm as much stuff. This is something I've from years of being a composer, when we used to have like a lot of computers to run different, basically sample farms. You know, like you might have a computer just running horns, and you might have a computer just running strings, and because they were so demanding, and computers weren't as powerful. So it's something I still carry over. If you have like a, you know, if you have a maybe an old computer that you're not using, you know, that's maybe a little bit outdated, you can still like you can use it as a dedicated synth. I did this with iPads too, by the way, like cheap old iPads. You can run a dedicated synth or something like that on an iPad, and that way it's like having an extra instrument without having to run it as a plug-in. So it's a way to save CPU. And Guitar Rig is pretty demanding. I mean, when you get into the high quality sounds, and if you run it in its highest setting, and some of these sounds are they'll eat the CPU. So anyway, that's why I'm running it on just an old laptop that I have here. But anyway, so we have we've got reso chords. We've got we have psych delay along with the reverb. There's an extra You can hear the delay in there. There's a tape echo. And there's also a reverb unit called Little Reflector, which is the one that I turned down because that's kind of the reverb of it. But you can hear, it's interesting. Like you can hear all that. Like you can hear the delay in there. You can hear it layered. It's like delay, then echo, then reverb, and they're all layered together. That's a little mixing trick that people do too. By the way, it's a whole other topic. But and then my EQ to get rid of that because of all that. Is probably because of those three. It's probably why the mid range was bothering me. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I've got a simple little. All that technology for this simple little part I'm about to lay down here. Let's see if I can do it within the world of loops here. Pretty sure I'm in tune. Let's check. It's actually dropped since I tuned about an hour ago. Okay. Let's see, what am I going to play? Something like that. This Telly's pretty good for this. It's the right. A Strat would work too. Strat's downstairs. Yeah, it works pretty well for this kind of this chorusy 80s sound that I'm kind of going for here. Okay, let's see if I can work in the loop world here. If this will work. Some compression. It's between these three. Platinum. That one's loud, but we've either lost sync here or I've got to redo the part, or both. Let's try this. 2, 3, 4. Let me cue these up and see if they're in sync. Yeah, I see what happened. So I need to play all the way through. When I did this synth loop, I did like what was that? So that's probably a lot. I played a lot of bars. Maybe 32. So I'm probably going to need to play all the way through it. I was kind of like figuring out whether or not, okay. Yeah, because I'm losing sync. Okay, let's redo it. DQ. That was a pretty good take too, other than the ending. Oh, dog alert. We have a visiting possum outside, so she goes to the door, and like when she smells it, and she's like, so that's the I smell a possum posture right there. Okay, compressor, I'll leave you on for now. We have the count in on. Have time to grab the pick. I'm going to mute that. Record. Here we go. DQ'd. DQ. Let's re-cue. Okay, let's see. So the take is, microphone's coming through there. The take is, it's okay. I want to redo it. It's okay. It's okay for now. I guess I'll leave it. Okay. All right, let's do some drums. So the beginning of this, what I hear is the beginning of this is okay. I came in a little late because I was pulling the pick out of my mouth, and then the end is okay. Now that I know how many bars this is, the synchronization is fine, but we'll leave it for now. If it's so this is the kind of thing I would say if this were a layered, if it's not a very prominent part, maybe it would be okay. I'd have to really listen to it again, but if it's a prominent part, it needs to be redone. All right, let's check out some drums. So another thing here, first of all, let's see. Okay, I might need to do an 8 count in on this. Also need to try to remember, it's not the end of the world if I leave this mic on while recording drums, but it's probably not ideal. This drum set over here is very minimal miking. If you want a little insight into the sound you're about to hear, there is a PZM inside the bass drum. It's an Audio-Technica PZM. Is that right? Is that an AT in there? Let's see. Yeah. It's one of those. Kind of an unusual usage. But I like to experiment with mics. Mics are mostly mics, but I like to experiment with them. So that's in there, inside the bass drum. I have a large, or I guess I'd say medium diaphragm condenser on, I think it's a large diaphragm condenser. Yeah. It's an AKG on the snare. Again, kind of unusual. People like to put a 57 on the snare or something. I don't really like them. I don't really like 57s on the snare. So that's there picking up the snare. And then I have one more mic. There's one more mic, and it's a different, and maybe I'll point them out when I get over there. But it's a different PCM that is on the overhead, basically. So it's serving to pick up the cymbals, which PCMs are good at picking up a lot of stuff. They're good, kind of like general. They'll pick up a lot of things if you place them correctly, and they'll pick up a lot of things pretty well. But anyway. Some people like them, some people don't. But they're picking up the cymbals and they're picking up the toms, basically. And sort of serving as an overall ambient overhead a little bit. This room sounds okay. It sounds pretty good. You get a lot of room. Got a lot of room in there. Let's see. Okay, that's right. Need to make sure this resets. If I go, if I were to do a test here. If I hit record here, will that, let's see, also let me do an 8 count. Two bars. start over. It was an interesting countdown. Okay. Just curious if it would reset automatically. Okay, let's try that. I'm going to get rid of this synth here. All right, so the last thing I was going to tell you about the drum sound that you're about to hear is, and then I'm going to turn this mic off while I record, is I am going to be recording, I'm recording effects to tape, so to speak, into the session. So that means, you know, when you're recording, there's a couple ways you can do it. One is, you know, what most people do is they record everything kind of dry, so that way when you can add stuff later, and you're not committed to whatever the sound is that's going to the hard drive. Because if you add like a bunch of reverb or something like I'm about to do, we call it, then you can't get rid of it. But I've got this sound kind of dialed in, and you know, if it doesn't work, I'll redo it. So what I've been thinking about beat-wise is either keeping it like really, really simple, like with maybe no hi-hat, or what I might do is simple the first time around and then add in the hi-hat the second 16 measures. Maybe that's the way to go. I won't know until it happens. So here we go. Not so sure about that take, but let's see what we've got. Compression. sound wise, getting there. Take wise, I think, you know, if you've messed with live loops at all, there's a bajillion ways to do this. One of the things I like about live loops, I don't know if I may have talked about this in another live stream or not, perhaps, is I have intentionally stayed away from learning exactly how everything works in it because I like to be surprised. One of the things I like to do. Music can be, you know, it can be super predictable. So it's fun. It's fun sometimes just to let the looper, the sounds, the pedals that you're putting together, the tapes, if you're whatever you're doing, they'll be surprised by those things. So with live looping, there's a lot of settings, a lot of different things you can do with it. It's super cool. Like if you just look at that right there, just look at all these potential settings in terms of quantization. We have quantization off, by the way. This is I don't think anything's on the grid except for I guess the arpeggiator is synced to that's the only thing on the grid, I guess. It's not on the grid. Well, it's on the grid as much as I played it in time. Yeah, actually, it's not technically on the grid, but it's synchronized to the DAW via MIDI. But anyway, all these settings here, like you can, live loops is actually made for it's not made for what I'm doing here at all. They did not design it for this, and I've found this out through messing with it and using it and running into a lot of issues and sort of brick walls and finding workarounds and things like that. But I still, even with all that said, I still continue to use it kind of as a, you sort of throw stuff at it and see what's going to happen. But anyway, so there's a bunch of ways you can do it. You can sort of automate all this. Of course, you can have it count in and quantize but one way so I could either try to do that take again like I just did it and get a little bit better, or we could, if this is 16 bars, which I think it is, I could record the drums over here with 16. Let's see what's up here with this. Make sure we've got so I might try that. I might try audio over here, just to get a little clearer picture of when we're going to be in and out, since we're on a live stream here. I'm doing some experimenting, but also trying to let's see. Let's get a little. There we go. That's what I'm looking for right there. Dog really wants to go out. I can hear that. But I'm only going to be on about 10 more minutes, so she'll survive. She can go see her possum friend then. So I'm going to keep this as kind of an idea. I'm going to mute it. Where's the mute? Playback mute. Okay. And we're going to go here. I'm going to kind of reset this. We're going to go here. We're going to try it again. So I think what will happen this time is I'll have a slightly clearer picture. And this will stop and start for me. Mainly stop for me. That's what I need it to do. I need it to stop so that I can play into. And also I'll hit that one a little more accurately. I didn't hit the one. I didn't hit the bass drum on one, which I knew it. I heard it when I did it, and I was like, well, we'll see what happens. Maybe something cool will happen, But okay, we're going to try this again. We've got toms, we've got the hi-hat, we've got the bass drum. Everything's good. Switch cameras here. tested the recording. It still sounds pretty good. It sounds pretty good dry. So, you know, tweaked it to the point where works very well. Okay, hopefully we have an 8 count in, and then we're going to get a good take here with the drums. Here we go. So I'm curious, it sounds like I recorded 16, 17, 18 bars maybe? I'm curious. Don't have a grid here. Bum, 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 bum. It's not really going to show me what I'm looking for here. I guess we could do it this way. This is the synth, and it's dictating how many measures there are, because that's the first thing I played. Okay, so that is, yeah, I was close. That's 8, 9, that's 11, well, 10 measures. 10 measures, yeah. So so when I played it in, I just sort of played it whatever I was thinking at the time. So it's 10 measures. So that means I could either play it as 20 as a loop, or just let it. But actually, the way that it turns around with the drums is kind of okay for now. You know, I don't know what's going to happen with this piece, if anything. But let's listen to it one more time as we wrap up here. And appreciate you guys joining me this evening. This is just a little insight into some of the ways that I work. There's a bunch of different ways. You know, sometimes you really plan things out and you really write things, and sometimes you just kind of see what happens. And it's one of the things that, to me, that's so fun about live loops. And some other looping tools that I use too is that it's kind of unpredictable. If you let it be unpredictable, you can learn it. You know, sometimes you need things to be predictable, like in a performance setting, maybe if you don't want it to be if you don't want to improvise. And then sometimes you are okay with things being unpredictable. And so that's one of the things I like about live looping, is just sort of like just kind of not overthinking it too much. And sometimes I write this way as well. Just not overthinking it too much and just letting things happen. And a lot of times you can get a good piece of music from it. So try that sometime. Just experiment with, you know, just even just the idea of just sort of playing around with letting things happen in a way that's not maybe as, you don't have as much control over. It's kind of fun. All right, I'm going to play this out, and I'll see you guys soon.